I'm recording. I'm gonna try and stay close to the mic because I think I was a bit quiet last Altacast. But hello and welcome to Altacast number 11, I think. Something like that. But yeah, so today I'm joined with just Joel, and we're doing this one from our home, so you can see that we're in our rooms, as you may have seen last Altacast. And yeah, today we've got some slightly more serious topics to talk about. We're going to be talking a little bit about player caps, I guess, on servers, and some of that meta level stuff with servers managing and community servers versus public servers. What's their future going to look like a bit? But yeah, and also I think there's a fair amount of stuff to talk about with the current state of everyone's workload. Some interesting stuff happening there. Finally, a bit of movement on what Joel and I are doing, which we'll get into a bit later. But yeah, so that's the topic for today. We're going to be talking a bit about server stuff and an update on what we're doing and a Q&A. All right, so let's start off with what's everybody doing, Joel?
Okay, let's run through the list.
Yeah, I guess we need a list of people, right?
We'll do the desks. That works well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tima, let's just skip him. Boramy, Boramy.
You and I. Let's do you and I at the end because I think it's the part that we'll dote on the most.
Okay, that's fine. Timo's been actually doing some job applications for like hiring a programming intern, and I believe he has selected one. They're not going to be a game developer. They're going to be a software engineer. So they'll be working on basically a lot of the stuff Timo works on, as well as some of the stuff that I work on the side mainly. So we'll be teaching them stuff like working with databases, managing servers, potentially stuff like updating the dashboard or the launcher. Basically, a lot of the meta sort of concepts that we have in our development, and it's actually a huge amount of our company's job is actually managing all these services surrounding the game, and so if we can find someone who turns out to be quite keen to work on that stuff and good at it as well, obviously, then having someone full time on that in our company would be really good, and it would actually free us up to focus on other things that need to be focused on. Aside from that, he's also been making some tweaks to server stuff, which we're actually that's the topic of today, so we'll be talking about that. Victor, he's been full-time on optimizations, and Serena's been helping him with that. There's been some things like performance improvements for the character, I know has been one of the things they've worked on. So the character previously has been 4 meshes, one for each eye, one for all the opaque stuff like a full shirt, and one for transparent stuff, which I think is mainly like one of those flowy skirts. And they found, firstly, the eyes have been merged with the opaque thing, and we've changed the way eyes work so that's all one mesh. But also the transparent stuff has been merged in, but done funky stuff. I didn't even know was possible, but apparently it's possible. So now our player would have been, what would have been like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like 7 or 8 draw calls, and now it's down to 3 draw calls, which might mean nothing to you, but it's an optimization. And stuff like that is what they've been focusing on. And their goal is sort of working towards an optimized state of the game, but we're trying to get little snippets that we can insert as we go. So not everything will some things kind of will have to come at once because they're designed to be shipped in a bundle. But some things hopefully we'll get over the coming weeks.
Yep.
That pretty much sums up what Serena's been doing as well. Tiana and Sebastian have been working on cosmetics. There's some pretty flippin' cool stuff on its way. We've got a new channel in the Alta Discord, and
they've been dropping some of the screenshots that they take for the store, and it's looking pretty nifty.
I just for a second there I was like, crap, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch my computer just in case I accidentally record something that's not to be on there.
Yeah, we got some pretty sweet stuff here. Anyway, I'm pretty excited. And
there's Soul as well.
Yeah, and Eric, I kind of skipped over him because I went from Victor and Serena, but they're on either side of Eric's desk. So Eric's Soul, has been working on. Have we talked about what he's working on?
Not that much. No, we talked a little bit about some of the balancing stuff he's been doing. I think we talked a little bit last Altacast about him working on some slight cave content level things, primarily with providing some challenges, some blocks, and some things that you kind of completely opt into this fairly tailored experience.
One of the challenges I know he's been overcoming is if we were to pit you against Torobatas, right now, as long as you can kite them around the place, you pretty much have the advantage. And so he's been brainstorming ways that environments themselves can be more challenging, so that it's not just a matter of you mindlessly walking backwards. Like, the worst thing that can happen is you get cornered, basically. But with these changes, how can we make that, like, how can we make the environment itself actually a challenge, rather than just the Torobata that you're kiting? And there's been some cool things there. It's got to do with the ceiling, some of them. I'll tell you that much. I won't say anymore.
Yeah, I think we kind of want to keep it a little bit on the down low because it's some pretty exciting stuff coming soon. And yeah, it's coming. It's definitely going to come sooner than later. Like, it's not like a forest level thing that's going to take a while to come out. We're expecting this to come out a bit sooner than that. So yeah, you have that to look forward to, and I'll probably be working a bit with him on some art and experience side of things probably next week.
Custom art.
Yeah. So that's exciting. And then it comes to what Joel and I are doing, right? I think.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as many of you know, we're working on the forest. Boramy kind of slipped it into the patch notes unnecessarily, making me sound like an idiot. But I've been stuck on something for weeks, and and Victor gave me a bit of advice, probably around day 2 of week 1, saying, "Hey Joel, you should try this." And I was like, "That sounds like a lot of work. I don't think it's going to be worth the work." And basically, he recommended exporting the nav mesh so I could see exactly what was going on in a generated world. And I was like, no. Turns out exporting the nav mesh was 2 lines of code. Super duper easy, like super easy. When I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do this, I did it in legitimately within 10 minutes of the decision that I would do this. I had worked out what the problem was.
Yeah.
So it then took me another, half hour or whatever to solve that problem. But I spent so long on this.
Yeah, we spent a long time trying to debug this pathfinding stuff, finding out why AIs weren't behaving quite well.
But and only in a specific situation.
Yeah.
Some of our tests it worked and some of our tests it didn't, and we worked out, what was the trend. Once we knew the trend, we could. Once I did what Victor said, we worked it out pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's kind of what Joel's been working on. So now that we're past this hurdle with the pathfinding stuff, it's kind of cleared our challenges so far in terms of the content growth for the forest.
Yeah.
For anyone that's been keeping up with it, the forest is probably going to be the biggest update we've ever done to A Township Tale.
Probably.
Actually, definitely, yeah. I mean, the biggest update was us launching the game.
We didn't even launch with.
Like
we didn't even launch with woodcutting, did we?
Yeah, we didn't have woodcutting.
Yeah, man, like tiny update.
But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff in the forest. So I'm currently working through that. You may have noticed if you're a supporter that we haven't posted that many spoilers, and that's because we're starting when it comes to content, we're starting to enter a bit of a territory where where a lot of stuff is we want you to just experience when you're in there.
Yeah, it's a struggle to balance. Like, we really want supporters to have an awesome experience for supporting. But part of that experience is spoiling things that we think will sort of hype you up and get you excited, but also trying not to spoil everything, so that because at the end of the day, that actually will make your experience worse if we spoil everything.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So if you think things may be going a bit slow, just because we're not spoiling much stuff, just know that that's not the case. It's just because we're only trying to show a small percentage of what's actually happening in the forest, so that it still feels new to you, and you're not going in there knowing everything that's going to be there.
Yeah, we have spoiled a little bit about Boramy's been working on one of the creatures we mentioned.
Yeah.
And we've got that running around the forest now.
Yeah.
And when I say running, I mean running. It's still a work in progress. It's not done, but it's great to see. It's faster for sure than Goteras or Torobatas.
Yeah.
And it's the fastest
has so far.
It also has a much longer sort of wander radius. So something like a Gotera will be here, and it'll go, okay, I'm going to wander over to here. And most creatures are like that. Whereas this creature, it can migrate. It can be like, well, I'm over here, and now I want to be all the way over there, and it'll head off in that direction. And so you really get this experience. It's not that you've come across a Gotera. It's that you're crossing paths with one of these creatures. You can tell it's going on a journey, and if you don't interfere, you'll just see it off it goes into the distance or whatever. So that's really cool, and very different to our current AIs things in the game. Yeah.
Now that we're that's kind of what we're at, just building AIs, and we're building this AI and then working on content things. Force is coming on pretty well. Joel and I are about to have a meeting after this, kind of revisiting the steps that we've outlined for leading up to the release of the forest, to just make sure that we're scheduling all of the development required for it, so that we can stay on track. And yeah, it feels good. We've got a bit of momentum going, and we're gonna keep it up as we get further and further.
It feels like huge momentum after the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, because we came to pretty much almost like a
halt, absolute halt.
And that was a bit distressing.
It was also the 2 weeks surrounding us starting to work from home. So
yeah,
it felt very unproductive for me. But
yeah, Joel had to sort out a bunch of the new logistics, I guess, for everyone's workspaces at home. So he's been debugging stuff for Serena for ages.
We're all done now. I actually think we're completely settled in, all at home. We're all working quite efficiently by the looks of things. It means I can wake up later. And I reckon it's I'm enjoying working from home. I think it's got its pros and cons. I wouldn't want to permanently work from home, but
it's an interesting change of pace for everyone.
It's definitely got some benefits.
Yeah.
Such as cooked lunches.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's it.
Yep, that covers everyone.
As with always, if you have any questions specifically about what we're doing, you want more information, that's what the Q&A is for. So the link is below. We'll obviously be doing Q&A at the end of the Altacast as usual for questions from last week. But just a reminder that that's there.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So
Part 2.
Part 2. Well, yeah, part 2 of the first half. So server stuff, Joel. Yeah, second. Like we're actually just past the 50-minute mark. So
15.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good timing.
Okay. So what's the what's the deal with server stuff, Joel?
Yes, server stuff. Well, the main thing is thing number one. We want everyone playing Township Tale to have a good time. It's not that extraordinary a goal as a game developer to try and make good experiences. But part of the challenge that we're facing right now is that the way the system works is that new players are effectively funneled into US1 to EU1, Oz1, and PvP. Basically the public service. And when we first started, this wasn't a huge issue. The servers never got too full. And when US1 got too full, we were like, let's make US2. And that was fine. But we weren't having big issues. But the reason we had the official servers to start off with was because we didn't want to roll out private servers. Firstly, because it was a lot of work, which we couldn't afford to do at the time. But secondly, because we didn't want the player base to completely fragment when there was only 100 players or 200 players. We're well and truly past those days. Not only have we implemented private servers, but we're way beyond 200 people. We have that many people logging into just the US1 public server. I think it's like 100 people a day or more. So we're way past that. But the problem is the UI and the general experience of the game still funnels players as if public servers are where we want them to go. And I don't want to call players sheep, but players know that game developers make things to be played a certain way. And if they don't want to risk ruining their own experience, the smartest thing players can often do is do what they can see the developers are wanting them to do. So if you're playing a game that's clearly a shooting game, yes, you can try and play it stealthily, but if you find yourself playing it stealthily and you have a crap experience, it's pretty obvious, well, I'm not playing the way I'm meant to. And if I play the way I'm meant to, then I'm more likely to have a good experience. And likewise, new players are joining and they're doing what obviously seems to be what we want them to do. But the problem is that's what we wanted them to do. That's not what we want them to do anymore. And so we're going to have to change these experiences to represent what we actually want and what we think is going to give them, being new people, the best experience.
Yeah. And so part of having new players come into these funnels is that the servers get really populated, and someone who's just joined might not get a great experience because the server was crammed with 40 people in US1, for example. So because of that, we see people kind of leave. They have technical problems, and for us to try and solve the performance issues that they get with 40 people it's a pretty big task, and it's very difficult for us to do. And the game's design and its balancing isn't 100% catered towards that kind of turnaround on new players coming in and going through these servers. You can see that with some things like no matter how many tweaks we've made, there's always some idea that there's an ore shortage in the mines or something like that.
Ores do respawn, and they respawn in like 15 minutes. I'll put that out there right now. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Ores respawn like crazy. It's just that if you're on a server that has someone new joining every 10 minutes, it gets cleared out. It gets cleared out so quickly.
But it should I think with 10 minutes, I think you should be able to find resources pretty reliably.
I think it's better. It's better now. An update or two ago, we did buff the spawn rates even more.
Yeah.
But as Boramy's saying, and if you watch our adventure series, you'll notice we don't have a shortage of ores in that series, and it's because it's a small group of us playing on a server. It's still a very social experience, and we could probably have a lot more people on that server. In fact, there could be a whole nother group of friends on that server, and it wouldn't affect our situation. It's just that if we invited 100 new people a day, then we definitely would find it difficult to find ores, or more, it wouldn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the problem with US1.
So that's kind of what leads into a discussion about player caps, which I know is, something that's pretty standard in games. I think we've talked about it with people in the past before, just, kind of talking about it, because people experience server problems. They wonder if there can be a cap. We don't have any at the moment. We're not going to have any in the, in that close of a future. But it is something that we're thinking about more and more because we do want, your servers that you've made to be more populated. We want new players to have a smoother experience coming in and less of one that's, outside the technical realms that we're handling.
Yeah.
And so, you may have seen on the feedback forum that we posted, a thread asking people what their thoughts were on this. And we got lots of great ideas from you guys about how to approach this particular problem, because if we had player caps right from the get-go, I think most people would be fine. It would be a bit less of a troublesome thing. But now that everybody's kind of committed to playing on these servers, you've got characters you're attached to, you've got these the type of community and culture that is a part of being in that public server. Like US sees so many new people coming in that a lot of people really enjoy that. And so as we're making these decisions, we're trying to weigh, how do we preserve these experiences that you guys have, and how do they fit along the scheme of the game's future?
It's very difficult to make decision. Like if we ignored players, the fact that players were playing the game, and we wanted to make decisions, it would be super easy. We'd just roll out right now 16 player cap. And that's just how it would be. The thing that really makes it difficult is the fact that there is all these, we know that would upset people. We know, we can just look at US1 and there's more than 16 people online. That means someone would get annoyed. However, US1 would never have reached this stage. Like people wouldn't have joined it. They would have picked a different server if they saw that it was constantly getting capped. So we wouldn't actually be in this position if it was done in day one.
Yeah. So a part of what we have to, a part of how we're going to handle is we're going to, is that we're going to be doing some special things when we reach that transition period. And you're going to see some other less hardcore executions of things coming in the near future. Just to see how that would plays out with new people. So you might see some changes to the onboarding process. There are things on our end, outside of player caps that we can do to try and promote things a bit better in terms of your servers and things like that. And so we're going to try and tackle those first because we've heard that that's something that you want to see more of. So we're gonna be attempting that. That's partly what's going to lead into what Timo's working on. Is handling all of that.
Yes. Yeah. Can I give an example?
Yeah.
So right now, what Timo's working on is pretty much making what we currently. So we have four types of servers really. We have public servers.
We have three types of servers.
Oh dear, I was going to say two of them. Yeah. So to put it simply, most of the servers you'll see are the official servers. They're open, meaning you can join them and play them straight away. They're public, which means you can apply for them but can't play straight away, or closed ones, which you can't see or apply to unless you get invited. The problem is having these four categories makes the official servers stand out and makes them look like that's where new players should go. So the first step that we're doing is actually going to be merging the concepts of, or we're going to be merging official servers into the open servers. So when a new player has finished the tutorial and they're looking at the server board and they're going, which server should I join? It's not going to be a list of the outer hosted servers. And from now on, I'm going to call them outer servers because they're not official. They're no more official or less official than any other server. They're just the ones that are moderated by us. And they're going to be in the list mixed in with all the other open servers, meaning a player might join and they might see a bunch of servers, and it might be that this particular server, I don't want to say a server, I got in trouble last time I said official, like an actual server name. Let's say there's like the awesome RPGers, and someone's just finished the tutorial and they're like, oh, there's like a pre-alpha tale US, the awesome RPGers, and a bunch of other servers, and they're like, awesome RPGers, that sounds good, let me join that one, rather than them seeing a list only of the pre-alpha tale, PvP tale. So that's the first change. Part of that change is making each of those outer servers a group. So you'll be able to see it in the launcher. You'll be able to join it via the launcher, like join the group for EU1, for instance. You'll be able to leave that group so it no longer appears on the board for you in game. And by doing that, it's going to act a lot more like any other group would. It's not some special different system. It's the exact same system as the other servers. Of course, it is open. You don't need to ask for permission to join. You can just join and play, same as you currently can. It's just mashed in with the rest. And we'll probably order that list by some sort of algorithm that we'll write. It will probably start off really basic, but if the server is packed, if the server has 20 people online, it'll probably appear a bit lower down on the list than it would if it had, say, 10 players online, because we would rather new players looking at this list would see a 10-player server, a server with 10 players online, than a server with 20 players online. And obviously, if it has 0 players online, it's going to be all the way down the bottom of the list, because we don't want players joining a dead server. We want players to join a server which does have other players. It is a social experience, but just not one that's completely packed either.
Yep. And so, those changes are probably going to come pretty soon. We're going to try and make it as easy for all the existing players to kind of for that whole thing to kind of organize around you so that you don't, if you're already playing, you don't have to go through too many hoops.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of covers some of the server stuff. We'd love to hear more about it. I'm going to put the link to the feedback thing in the description as well. If you've got lengthier discussions you want to have about this and you don't want to do any in YouTube comments or on the FAQ, I would recommend doing it on the forum just because it's where a lot of other people's ideas are, and you can look at those. So we'll this is an in progress thing, so we want to hear more of what you think about it.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick break now, and then we're going to move on to the Q&A section because we're just about on the threshold of time. Do you have something else you want to add?
Oh, I was just going to say player limits, as we mentioned, aren't coming super soon. We want to do these other things and see if we can even remove the need for player limits. Because player limits are basically a hardcore way of us saying, look, that's enough. We really need you to disperse and go to other servers at this point. We'd rather not do that. Like if one more person than the limit wants to join, like it kind of sucks that they can't. That being said, if you're currently on one of the outer servers and you're considering joining a server run by the community or a server that's less packed, I'd really encourage you to do so. I'd really encourage you to grab some friends and go, let's either create a server or find another server and be active on that server. Because not only are you going to get a better tailored experience, but you're less likely to be adversely affected by something like a player cap if we do have to implement it in the future. Also, in terms of anyone looking to start servers, something I really recommend is asking the community, what server, if I were to start a server, what do you want to see? Because I know a lot of players have said to me that the reason they don't want to join community servers is because so many of them are spawning in stuff or so focused on events or whatever, and they just want the vanilla experience. So maybe there's room for some more vanilla style experiences out there. I believe there's been a couple recently which are a bit more vanilla, still with slight flavoring on it, but predominantly vanilla. But it would be really cool if the community started chatting and talking about, why exactly are we on, why have we chosen not to move to private servers, and are there other things that you guys can do in terms of hosting servers, or that we can do in terms of developing the game, that will help you actually want to move? Because at the end of the day, there's literally nothing different between our servers and community servers. Really, everything that can be done on our servers can be done on community servers and vice versa. So really, I think it's more of a perception thing and an availability thing. So if there's no vanilla servers, then obviously if someone's looking for vanilla, they're not going to go to a community server. Just something to think about. We're all in this together. We want to hear your thoughts, but we'd love for people to try and work together and help us out as well to move towards this. Obviously, it's a long road ahead, but yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. But yes, let's take a break, and then we'll be back for part 3, or part 2 as Boramy.
Yes, part 2 is the second half. All right. Hello and welcome back. Took a quick break. Here we're doing the Q&A for Altacast 11. Yeah, I was right. We were at 11. Okay, so, yep. Do you want me to read them out, Joel?
I was going to read them out. Yeah, I've done enough talking.
Okay, all
right. Will potion or stew effects have visual effects around the edge of your screen so that you can know which ones are active?
So we've considered doing like on-screen visual effects that you would see appear like around the full stream of your vision, but it can get quite busy, and we don't really want to oversaturate your vision with post-processing effects like that, because it's a bit of a difficult thing to communicate. Currently, you can drink like potions and stews that give you strength, and you see an effect around your character's body. They're pretty aggressive at the moment. They might see some changes in the future, but I think we're gonna try and stay away from impacting your vision too much with that sort of thing. Just because it can make people feel uncomfortable, and it's a bit busy.
Yep. Cool. Will there be an XP boosting potion when alchemy comes out?
Perhaps. I don't know yet. We'll see. Depends on how that's kind of like a balancing type of question. And yeah, like it'll have to, if there is an XP boosting potion, it's going to be a pretty damn hard potion to make. Just because we don't want to devalue the effort and skill that people have put into leveling up.
If you could go back to the beginning, I like this question. This is a good question. If you could go back to the beginning of ATT's development with what you know now, what do you think you would change individually and or as a team? The caves.
The caves? Oh yeah, the caves. Actually, the caves is a good one.
The cave generation.
With our current knowledge, especially.
Something I've learned as a programmer, working on procedural generation, is that information is power, as cliche as that is. it's very easy to throw into like sort of throw algorithms together to get procedural results that you can tweak the algorithm and get different results, but you don't know exactly anything really. You kind of have to go through hacks to even observe the result, to know where walls are or to know where large open areas are. And unfortunately, the way we made the caves is that sort of thing. It creates this monster that we have to use. We have to try and do tricks to even understand what's going on, so that we know where walls are to place boulders, and we know where things are. And it's a bit of a nightmare, to say the least. Also, the way it overall was structured technically was it was done right at the start. It was pretty much the test case for our chunking system supporting dynamically added chunks, and it's still the only case of that actually in the game. But overall, looking back, I'm reading through that code in my spare time, and there are so many things I would change. And also, as we work on the forest, and we can kind of just say, every now and then we want large open areas so that we can spawn these larger structures in. We know it's a larger area.
We know how big it is.
We know how big it is. We know the biome, the path. We know how many paths are heading in or out of that area of the forest. We know how far the player would have traveled from town to even get to this place. Like if they had to wind their way all the way around and get to this place, we know how far they've traveled. So we can know, let's put something cooler here, or let's put a more valuable loot here. In the caves, well, we're struggling to even make it so that every cave is 100% traversable. So that's definitely one.
I think caves for me is also the same sort of deal. There's probably like there's also small parts of like the character model that I would change how it's done, but like that's down to like where some vertices are and stuff like that.
Literally, Serena looked at some of the vertices one day and she's like, why is this triangle this way instead of this way? She's just complaining about individual triangles on the player's body. So
but caves is definitely the big one. Like I would love for caves to be more node based like the forests are.
I like that. Let's just clarify. I like the results of the cave. And I think we still have the potential to add amazing things to the caves. It's just the technical side. It's just much more effort to add something in than it should be. And maybe if it had been easier to add things in, we would have seen more cave content by now. But part of the barrier is the fact that adding a new cave biome we know will take us much longer than it probably should. And we will do it. It is coming. We're not working on it right now actively, but we will have more cave biomes. It's just literally an answer to the question. Something we would do differently.
Like Soul's doing a bit of cave stuff, but there is like an overarching task of us working on caves that we want to get to as well at some point. All right.
I'm trying to think, is anything else? Any other quick small things? We've obviously rewritten things a lot of times. Like we rewrote our AI system at some stage, and I really like our new one. It's got a lot of potential. And it's very modular, so we can constantly be adding on new modules to expand its functionality. I don't know. I feel like part of the joy of A Township Tale has been the journey that it's gone on as well. So we're constantly rewriting things and tweaking things, but it's not a matter of regretting that we did it some way in the first place. It's just that that's what was appropriate at the time, and it's now reached its expiration date, and it's time to change it up to be more in line with what we're now aware of, what we now know. Yeah. All right, next question. When climbing gets added, do you have any plans for adding in rope? Imagine adventuring down deep pits beneath the earth or working your way over massive mountains.
I think it kind of depends on the functionality of rope in these cases, but dynamic rope that kind of behaves like your spider web, probably not going to happen. But you may be able to descend thick ropes that kind of
more like
that are pretty static.
A bit more like the crank on the cooking stand or the well.
Stand.
Yeah.
Or once they're run horizontally as well. But you're not going to be swinging so far. We've done.
It's not Indiana Jones, unfortunately.
And the reason we're saying no to that right now is because we know that development-wise, it's very problematic to just scan the environment for how the rope will behave with it. So it's not something that we are actively saying we're going to solve this problem. It's something that
obviously, it's if one day miraculously it comes there comes out some tech that makes it quite feasible for us. Obviously, it's something that sounds awesome, but it's just a technical nightmare at this stage.
Yeah.
So. In terms of climbing, though, there will be climbing equipment. Climbing won't just be you and your hands. We'll have tools, maybe things that you can hammer into a wall to create, I don't know, all sorts of things that will make climbing more than just you and a wall, but maybe not swinging ropes. Someone's asking about how we bundle assets and when are they going to be packaged less chaotically. We don't have a huge amount of control over their packaging. A lot of it is, the thing is, packaging fundamentally at the end of the day is something that is going to be determined by how we need to access it from the game. They're never packaged in such a way that it'll be easy. We never go, let's package this in such a way so that players can easily find an asset in the game. That's not what it's for. If you're trying to rip assets from the game to 3D print or for whatever reason, that's a you problem. That's not an us problem. Flycam for server owners when get asked this all the time. One day. Actually, maybe with the, I don't know if this is the case, but maybe with some of the server changes we're making the official server. No, actually, I have no clue. But we still have no ETA. We know that you want it. We're not ignorant of that fact. Will we see several different armor types when it's added versus just one generic suit? Can we? Oh, okay. So this is the same person who asked about the frog mouth helmets last time, but they're clarifying that they didn't mean dynamic as in interactable, as in helmet goes up and down, but they just want.
You're definitely going to see different armor types coming to the game that will be good for different purposes. We'll have different crafting requirements, different materials. So
different, akin to the bag. There'll be different types of, just like there's different types of bags. There'll be different types of armors. Some armors might even, I don't know if it would go through the attachment system like the bag side pouches will, but I imagine armors will have extra bits of customization as well, including which metals you use or materials, leathers or whatever you use to even make that armor in the first place. In contrast, the old armor, for those who remember, it was pretty much, here's a piece of armor, that's what you've got. Whereas obviously you didn't make that armor. This one you'll be making and really custom. customizing. This is a long flipping question.
Are you talking about the reworking metals question?
Basically, yeah, what if metals had unique abilities? This is something that we've said actually is our goal in the long run. We just don't have a whole bunch of stats that we want to play with yet. We're mostly limited to damage and durability, but there definitely are some things that we'll tap into in the future, maybe like magical potency. Maybe it is stuff like drop rate multipliers as suggested in this question. Like there are options, but we don't want to throw everything we've got at the existing metals. We'd rather address that as it feels correct, I guess. Is that your general take on it too, Boramy?
Yeah, I think it comes down to having the stats and the right challenges that would make you want to have those traits in your weapons and armor. So again, it comes a bit on like the adventure side that before we can diversify, we want to add more problems for you that need solving.
Okay, this is a cool question. Will stewing see a removal of all magical effects after the addition of alchemy?
Probably not. No. So stewing still gives you fairly physical-ish buffs. It's like strength, damage, protection, or like debuff versions of those. But with you're gonna see more magical-ish effects coming out of alchemy that might have some downsides and stuff like that.
Arguably the most most magical one is the night vision potion.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of playing on the fact that carrots let you see in the dark. There's a reason you can't make a teleport potion by mixing apples and I don't know, potatoes or something.
Some of the more magical effects that have wackier results will definitely come out of alchemy. Yeah.
Will we ever be able to punch? Once again, I feel like we've answered this, but what's the answer? Now I doubt myself.
Well, I mean, the main thing is we don't want you to keep accidentally punching things. So, abstracting too many different inputs is a bit strange. Maybe one day we'll let your hands collide with the environment a bit more when you're not holding anything, and then we'll explore a bit on how punching can behave from that.
Right now, if you want to have a boxing match, there are knuckles you can wear, or you can just hold some stones and have a go. But and I don't think you'll ever be able to punch down a tree. Just putting that out there. Sorry, I accidentally scrolled down. Next question's about flipping up visors. We answered this last week. Unfortunately, it's not super viable using our character tech. Our character tech does some batching to make it static so that it's very optimized, because our players actually are quite high poly for the number of players in an area. But
there's a statement about that as a way to balance out armored players, but taking a few extra seconds to buff themselves. I think that's not a really severe enough kind of like debuff, having to open up your visors to drink a potion. Drinking a potion can already
can leave it up.
Yeah. The thing that you might see is maybe like us changing how long it takes to drink a potion for some things. But that's still really up in there. Like if we have a less like portion based system, then that doesn't really apply. So we'll see if there's anything done about that.
When will you guys add a crouch button?
we don't have any ETA on that sort of thing. It depends a bit on like. I mean, the game. So part of the issue is the Township Tale is in so many ways a very physical game, and like a crouch button or like an input for crouch isn't going to make the game like the most accessible game ever. Like just because we have a crouch button doesn't make it that anyone can play. There's tons of other interactions that needs to fit that category. So yeah, we don't have a time on that.
It is. We are aware of it. We're aware of we've got a couple. We've got pretty much a short list of suggestions to increase accessibility, but there are some issues in focusing on these sorts of things when we don't even know the full extent of how things will go. Stuff like implementing something before we implement climbing fully, because it'll actually make climbing harder to develop if there's lots of decisions that we need to sort of have made before we start focusing on increasing accessibility. Accessibility is something we value, but it's a tricky balance. For anyone who is trying to get around playing the game and they can only play seated or whatever, if you configure your game floor to be at a seated height, you will appear shorter for everyone else, but you'll be able to pick up items off the floor. So that's one way of getting around it for now. Yeah. Is there any chance that we are going to be able to pick up Spriggles? I just really want to load one into a huge catapult and blast it away.
There is a chance, yes.
It was in our original design, I believe.
Yeah,
that you could
like
grab their legs.
Yeah, that you can. Well, yeah, grab the legs or grab them kind of like a pot.
That's just Zelda, okay?
What do you mean?
We all know what you're talking about.
I mean, like tucked under the wings, kind of like Simba holding. Holding Spiegel is something people have wanted to do a lot. I think when we had the first discussion, it evolved into like a pretty violent discussion about the ways that people want to hold Spriggles. So we didn't end up doing anything about it. But yeah, there's definitely a chance that that's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay. When are we going to have the option to turn off the damn birds chirping? Sound is an audio, music, whatever you want to call it, background noise is something that will evolve over time.
Yeah.
And maybe even with the forest, that's going to start seeing some of already in the caves we have different noises, but hopefully with the forest, we're going to spend some more time looking for sounds that we can start integrating into the game that might flow into more than just the forest. So that
like a portion of this as well is like in my personal philosophies, as the game's AI content grows, like the need for non-diegetics, like animal sounds, is gonna get reduced.
Oh, like fake birds.
Yeah, so like because the birds chirping, and there's no actual birds that are making that sound.
Yeah. What? Are you kidding me? After all this time.
But yeah, eventually, like we're gonna just not have that part of the ambience, and if you hear an animal sound, it's because there's gonna be an animal somewhere near you.
Oh yeah. So I look forward to this.
That's the direction we're going with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like already the Spriggle sounds to me add so much to the.
I love the Spriggle sounds. Yeah. At first, it made me feel guilty killing them. Now it just makes it all the more pleasant. Okay. More Shmichi or mushroom variants? Look, just when it's appropriate. A lot of these questions, it's not that we're against it. It's just that there's no reason right now for us to add mushroom variants. If we're working on a swamp, say, in the forest, and we're like, damn, it would be really good to have a new mushroom type here. That's when we'll be adding a new mushroom type and potentially Shmichi type with it. I think I'm getting rickrolled or something. Yeah. Wow, caught it.
Are you clicking the YouTube links on there?
Yeah, I clicked the YouTube link. It was a rickroll.
Well, yeah,
Man.
no shit.
For those who haven't been on Rick Astley's YouTube recently, check out his latest videos. It's pretty good stuff. Okay. When will you guys? Oh, so the question is, when will we make the light range of fire move with the players without delay? There's actually a reason we put a delay there. There's and one of those reasons is so that you can't just mindlessly run into the dark with a torch. You kind of get this sense of it. It's almost getting darker and darker as you run into the darkness. So you want to take it a bit slower so that you have time for the light to catch up and for you to understand your environment. So there is a reason we have it there. It might be possible that stuff like crystal, currently the lights don't lag behind. So maybe that'll just always be the downside of a fire-based light source. But do you have any more thoughts for me?
No, that's pretty much it, yeah. Like, it's an intentional design decision we made about lighting in the caves and stuff like that.
Cool. Ignoring that next YouTube link. Please don't post YouTube links. From now on, I'm not going to click on them.
Yeah, don't click on the links.
Yeah, no links. Any type of new blades. Same goes with the mushrooms. Same goes with other buffs to players. We want to put more challenges and more reasons to have new weapons or new potions or new whatever in the game. Once we have those reasons, then new blades will follow. Yeah. Are we making a version for Oculus Quest? Oculus Quest is, for those who don't know, it's a standalone headset. It can be plugged into your PC and you can play Township Tale on it already. Just get a link cable, plug it in, and you can play. Yep. In terms of standalone, it's a completely different beast. Right now, our game is PC only. It doesn't work on PSVR, it doesn't work on any standalone headset. It's going to be a lot of work if we want to do that. When we can't do that right now. We can't afford to, we literally do not have the money to just put someone on porting to Oculus Quest. It's a huge endeavor. So when we're in that position, we'll let you guys know. When we have an ETA, we'll let you guys know. And at this stage, by all means, get an Oculus Quest. From the sounds, I haven't personally gotten a go with it, unfortunately, but from what I've heard, it's a great headset, and it works with Township Tale with the link cable. So by all means, if that's what if you're tossing up between it and a Rift S, then it's still a viable headset choice. Yep. In the far future, will there be a vast overhaul of destructible terrain? For example, actually carving away at the terrain.
So, how far in the future is this question asking?
It says in the far future.
In the far future.
So, let me check our timeline for the year 2094. Yeah, it's scheduled in there.
Yeah, 2094, Township Tale 1 is complete.
Destructible terrain has its pros and cons. If anyone has played on a Minecraft server and then had a griefing squad come in, they'll know the downside of everything being destructible. It actually makes it almost impossible for us to tailor any form of experience if absolutely everything can be torn down. Whether it's torn down by griefers or just torn down by someone who's like, well, I want stone and this is all made of stone, so let me destroy it, regardless of the fact that it was the most beautiful structure in the town or whatever. So there are reasons not everything is destructible. That being said, personally, I would love to see a form of terrain in the future that is destructible. That does carve itself out. and maybe we could start having sections of the cave where you see this slightly different type of stone on the wall, and you can actually carve through it. So not all the you can't dig out the entire cave layer, but there are sections that maybe you do need to blast your way through or dig through to reveal ores or whatever.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
We're done.
So if you got more questions, or if there's something you want to hear more about, be sure to hit the link below. And we're also going to have the feedback link again if you want to talk a bit about server stuff. That's going to be in the description. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you like this Altacast. Slightly less chaotic than the last one. But yep, have a good time. Stay safe, everybody.
All these questions
and thanks for watching.
Yeah,
right.
Good work staying inside and watching videos.
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
See ya.